Well, here we are ready to start the summer-autumn turn. Later half of the year in Mr. Madison's War. But I wanted to step in and speak because I got a couple of clarifications from the designer about some of the things that I raised a few questions about. One of which is the St. Lawrence, it turns out, is not navigable at this time period. And that makes sense for the larger ships couldn't go down, and I should have realized that actually. But there was the capability to move land units down the rivers a little quicker. I think that's probably represented by the normal movement lines, though, in the game. If you look where those normal movement lines actually are, they kind of follow the river lines where there was speedier movement available. And the trail, these aren't highways, obviously. And what were the highways at that time? Well, they were where the waterways were, where you could move units on and off. So I think that's the representation there. He didn't specify that, but I don't think... I think our minds were kind of not meeting in that question. Another thing is I made a clear mistake. What Proctor did up here was illegal. He couldn't have taken control of Huron. You're only able to use land leaders to command fleets for naval transport. I'm trying to look in the rules and see how that's distinguished. I have this feeling that, well, what's naval transport? Could I have moved a guy here? Would I have had to have moved troops to do so? It definitely creates sort of a complexity to the way the rules would have to be written. I kind of skimmed them, but as I mentioned in my post, it's almost like I'm phoning this one in because I did play it recently, read the rules, explained them, and they've kind of faded from my head a little bit in, I don't know, the 3 weeks or so since I last played it. And I came up with this idea of, I really want to do that. And I just did it without really looking too carefully. That's something I do. He also specified what these were for. They're to hold the victory point cards, just what I'm doing basically, so that you know which cards have been played. Well, it works fine for me to keep the deck there. It makes me happy. I want to make sure they're covered. And I like my little method for handling the victory point cards just fine. And let's see, there was one more. I don't remember what it is. The thing I had the question about, the typo in the rules or whatever, is indeed a typo, and I interpreted that according to him correctly. And it seems obvious it should be that way, which is the... what the hell is it? The winter attrition, that you want to avoid the zero boxes, and you want to not be an enemy controlled territory out of supply. Both are problems in and of themselves. There was another issue, but I don't remember what it was. Anyway, I posted them all on Board Game Geek, a segment of his reply. All right, well, we'll deal out the cards just like we normally do in a CDG and get kicking into this second turn. We got some reinforcements coming. I got to place those two. Okay, so only the Americans got reinforcements. They got one unit, but for the most part what they got were naval reinforcements, some schooners. These actually come right on the board. These are the only naval reinforcements that don't have to be built. There are some units, there were some merchant shipping that was conscripted and armed to be used against the Brits here. I'm not going to worry about Proctor up here. I'm going to try to play by the rules as much as I can, but I may have to fudge him once more to get him back to Lake Erie if I don't want to ship more troops with him. But otherwise, after that, I'll stop cheating with land units, trying to do naval actions. And I think I should be able to catch the spirit of the rule pretty well now that I understand it. What else do we have? I do remember what the other one was. It had to do with the final card of the game, the Treaty of Ghent. It is possible that the game can end without that, because you don't run through the entire decks for any given year, and it's possible that card, since it's dealt to the bottom of the deck, just will not come out. And then you just end with the last card play, and you score the game at that point. But that's kind of the thing. It's not too important to grab victory points in the game. So, for example, lake control. The reason you want it is because of its strategic effects, not because of those 2 victory points terribly. That's not worth grabbing unless there are cards stuck in there that I didn't see, because I didn't play the full game out. I only played into the second year, and I managed to cut the British supply in such a way that we decided the game was essentially over. So there may be some kind of card that, ends the game based on the victory points or affects things based on current victory points. We'll see how that works. All right. This is 1812. So the United States is going to get to play first. And we'll see what they do. Okay, for the U.S. turn, they played the Constitution versus Java. Picked up a couple of victory points. I can cancel out the Tecumseh card just so that I don't have to keep track of how many points there are. I know I'm neutralized again. Prevost moves down into Ticonderoga. Now, his goal here is kind of a big one. It's to march his way down to Albany and force all U.S. entering reinforcements into Albany to ever have to fight him. Try to push him out of that clear terrain where he'll be defending and have regulars there. Now, this is a dangerous situation. In general, I don't think the British can win the automatic victory. They need to take Albany, Pittsburgh, and then I believe these 2 forts locations. That's tough. That's real tough, while maintaining your supply lines, etc. But if I take Albany, and if I can hold out against any reinforcements that are coming in there, maybe it's possible. So what I'm going to do is I am going to march all the way down if I can. Unfortunately, Dearborn has decided no longer to allow himself to withdraw. He is going to stand and fight because the Americans have that card. And we're going to set up a little battle there and fight that out. Okay, so let's take a look at this because we did a battle before. But both sides are going to put forward their lead unit. Neither side has a leadership advantage, but the Americans have this improved defense. That's going to be a -2 to the die roll. Now, the British force is some, 10, 15, 28 strength points. The American force is, I think, around 20, 16, 20. There's no modifier from the land attack ratio, the modifier for that. That's essentially a 1-to-1 attack, so we get nothing there. We get a -1 from the terrain, a +1 from unit quality. It nets out to be a -2, which is not good for the Brits. The Americans have their success here, and they're going to get this for every round. That's a nice event card for them. So the Brits kind of... Here's the problem. You can't disengage in this game. You don't fight one round of battle and have the option to retreat. You fight until you are forced to retreat. So 8 gets us to 6. It's an exchange. Both sides take a step loss. And now I believe they have to put forward a unit of who's not damaged. And here we're in the same situation. It's going to be -2 again. And we're at a 4. Attacker retreats and takes a step loss. It's got to be off his main unit. And he's going to be pushed back a hex back here to Port Kent. I made a mess. Now, there are these division counters, and it took me a while to figure these out too. This is a kind of common thing. You have these 2 markers you can put to keep units off map. You can put one of these on map and one of them on top of the pile of units, so you don't need a card specifically to hold those units. I like my piles on the map, except when I'm trying to do things one-handed. I don't think this is a game that tends to have big enough stacks that it's a problem. It could be. It could happen that way because of subordinate leaders. You could have a huge stack of units, and this guy can command 15 units on his own. So that's a lot of units. But it doesn't feel like it's tended to do that so far. If I feel the need to, I'll use it. Anyway, that puts us back at the U.S. player. He's won a victory, but I don't know if he's ready to march back up to Port Kent here and fight that. Because remember, the terrain is an advantage for the Brits as well as for the Americans. The woods, both sides can take advantage of it. The Americans, assuming, I'm pretty sure they did, are going to spend a 1-point card here to recuperate their damaged unit. They can do this because they're in their original home territory and in supply. The Brits are not able to recover their units because they're no longer in the British original territory. So this allows the Americans to kind of build up their forces. I wanted to speak about why I played that victory point card when I did. It's because the Constitution, and I found this out in the last game I played, there's a card that gets rid of the Constitution and gets rid of all of the ability to play those cards. So there are some kind of what-if cards in here. Those are valuable victory point cards, and I wanted to make sure I got it out before the Brits could sink the Constitution, because there's a lot of points available in the Constitution. I don't know if it's 4 or 6 or whatever, but these cards, getting your victory point cards scored seems like a valuable thing. The Americans have another one in their hand that they didn't want to play. It's a 3-point card to begin with, as this one's only a 2-pointer. Oops! It's a winter event. I cheated. Oh crap. Alright, I'll throw the Wasp versus Frolic in instead, just so that I don't disrupt things. Wow, that means I have to hold it. That's something I find kind of difficult. Just training my mind, I don't see that very easily. I've caught myself making that mistake a couple of times, playing a winter event as an event. It's not. You have to hold those until the winter turn, and you're allowed to play, I don't know if it's 1 or 2 of them. So this one I will hold, because 2 victory points is valuable. Anyway, that's I just wanted to get this out of the way to even up and not confuse what I did. But I probably wouldn't have played that at that moment, just because it's a valuable card at that time. All right, on to the Brits. Sorry for taking so long on this one. I just caught myself cheating again. So Dearborn pressed his Prevost pressed his attack. Dearborn fell back H-hex, and the Brits started leaving a line of supply going back that you can see. Now that weakened their forces. They actually had less than the Americans, and they've been fighting and rolling pretty well here. The Americans didn't have their defensive card anymore. That goes away. There's no prolonged defense, like say in Wilderness War or some other games where when you play a card, you get kind of a defensive emplacement there. Well, the Brits figure out how to circumvent this surprise defense card that came up. So the Americans fell back after being outmaneuvered or whatever in the Ticonderoga hex, and the fight ends up down in Saratoga. Now, the British have had to strip away forces in their supplies. They have a smaller force, so now they're attacking at -2 to begin with. But here comes something that I wasn't really terribly aware of. These reduced units on the attacker's side don't count in the combat strength. So now the attacker's attacking at like 1 to 3 odds. He's got about a -3 on the whole effect. -2 for the 1 to 3 attack, and then another -1 for the Saratoga terrain. He has no option. He has to keep rolling. You know, once you launch into an attack, you're forced to keep going until you get the retreat result. But it's looking pretty bad for him. I think the Brits are going to have to retreat all the way back up in order to restore their units. And the attacker continued to get good rolls. Well, he got another good roll, but he ended up taking a hit that is forcing him to retreat because now he has no units of any that have any strength in them. This little red triangle here I think means it's a militia unit that can't be recovered. I'm not absolutely certain. But that seems to be what applies with it. And now the Brits fall back, and they're in some definite trouble here. I wouldn't be too surprised to see Dearborn coming back at them, but he would like to recover his army before he does so. Eventually, after some recovery and a retreat by Prevost, Dearborn marched up and faced Rottenburg alone up here. He has very few troops, but it was enough, and Dearborn wasn't fully recovered. He was facing, let me think, he didn't quite have 2 to 1 odds, and he was facing British regulars firing in clear terrain, which gives them a defensive benefit. So he was actually driven back, and now the Brits are in better shape again, but they do want to recover Prevost's forces. Now the question is this where they want to be focusing, or do they want to move to some other area where they could gain more? It's hard to tell. I forgot to add all these points. I'm going to have to make sure I got my points right. And Provost recovered a unit over here at Ile-aux-Noix. At this point, the Americans have 2 cards left. It's time to start worrying. What am I going to do about winter? Yeah, you probably should think about that beforehand. But yeah, I'm sitting on a couple of cards. One's a campaign that I was hoping to use to move 2 forces, and one's this Constitution versus Java, a couple of victory points. I certainly want to save the Constitution versus Java for my winter turn. So that leaves me with 1 card that I was hoping to do offensives with to try to save Dearborn's units, which are up here at Port Kent, and definitely more than I'd like supply for. I can supply only 1 unit. I have 2 full-strength units. I'm going to lose a step there. And then over here, Hull's got a whole pile in place that is more than he has. So what I'm going to have to do is look and see what's up with the supply depot rules. I think what they are is I play 1 card, I get 1 supply depot. That's how I remember it. Yep. Well, I can save this, or I could pull back somewhere. There isn't really a somewhere to go, though, that'll keep 4 units alive. So I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to punt and slide that card in for the winter, but my plan is to build the depot. What I don't want to do is build the depot and maybe get pushed out by an attack. I don't think I can be, because I think I have stronger forces. Dearborn, more of a problem. He's going to suffer a step loss in the winter. So I was looking for the special rules, thinking, and I haven't found them yet, for this little guy with the wavy things. Now there's a lot of units with special rules, and that's what I'm finding here. That little wavy thing, I think, meant that I didn't have to do this whole naval thing to land here at Fort Mackinac. That they can just grab it on their own. But I can't find the rule on that right now. I've been looking for it for the past couple of minutes. I know I saw something somewhere on it, and now I cannot find it in the rules. Maybe, let's see, they're Northwest Indians. Maybe the index carries it. That would be sweet. I know there is a good index here, but it seems to be divided up into types of things, and yeah, that's not helping me. But I found a couple of other things that I'm like, shit, I screwed up royally here. Okay, man, damned if I can remember. Well, I can remember one, but I forgot the other one. See, that's the problem. I have a hard time remembering lots of little special rules, and this game, like a lot of CDGs, has them. Whoa, I know what one of them. One of them is not a little special rule. It's what forts do. So forts have an intrinsic defense, and I didn't count this in this attack, of extra strength points equal to their victory point value. I missed that completely, and I missed that last time I played. It's the only place I found it was up here, the defensive benefits of forts, but it's not really covered in the combat, etc. And you know, it's really tough to remember things when they're only hit on once. But the other one is there's a special rule when I was looking for the engines for this Lower Canada militia. They can't go more than 8 hexes from Montreal. Let's see, is it 8 hexes or is it 2? If it's 2, I'm really out of it. No more than 2 hexes from Montreal, and I had them down here fighting at Saratoga. Yeah. So, you know, there's a lot of little pieces like that you're going to have to remember, or just resign yourself to screwing up. I'm still looking for those Indians. I think they could make that crossing, but I cannot find the rule for that at all. And, you know, this isn't much of a rule book in terms of length, so I don't know where it was. It certainly wouldn't have been in the playbook. I'm wondering if I saw it maybe in the plaids or something, because my quick skim didn't help me. That, you know, it felt like it was really easy to get back into this without looking at it too hard, which is one of the reasons I did what I did with it. But, yeah, it's not only did I miss things the first time when I went through it carefully, but I'm missing them again because, yeah, I think I remember most of this. So yeah, I don't even know where I am anymore. I think I'm on the British turn trying to figure out what to do. They're okay for supply here, even though it's a bad place, as long as they don't recover their units. They've got two undamaged units, so they can leave the damaged guys there, and they're okay because they're in supply in home territory. A lot. So now it's kind of a, oh well, what else can I do? And then I noticed this unit and started trying to figure out whether or not that made, whether or not I had missed a rule there, and I'm pretty sure I did, but I still can't find it. Ha! Well, it's right above the things I was looking at, just on a different page. So this, yeah, it has the ability to move between the two on Lake Huron, and it's not allowed to leave the lake. So actually, in terms of special units, there's only 3 combat units that are special, and then some special rules for all the Indian units. It's not necessarily trivial to discover what is an Indian unit if you don't know what you're looking for, though. So for example, oh wait, what is this? Oh, that's fair. Event cards. You know, looking at the picture, I'm pretty sure that's an Indian, but there's no real distinction between them. The Shawnee certainly are going to be Indians, but they have a backside. But they also aren't going to recuperate. They have that triangle that indicates you can't just pump them in like you can regular. So there's hints to help you, but there's no real nice definitive, yeah, this is a this is a that. That can tell you. You can kind of look at the picture, but some of the things like, I don't know, the Voltigeurs and stuff don't look too different from the Indians. So are they not? I don't know. They probably can be treated the same, but the Indians have specific restrictions. They can't use forts. Their movement factor is only 6. They can't be restored. Just a bunch of special rules for them. It's also, you know, probably easiest to just play it and say, I'm going to screw some things up. It's, you know, it's going to need some hammering out and real clarifications more than I think the rules give to really specify everything for, say, serious tournament play or something. And well, because of the defensive card and burying a card, Americans play the supply depot. The Brits got 3 cards unanswered, and they managed to grab the remaining 3 lakes. There's an extra lake control marker for some reason. Again, you know, maybe you decide to eat one or something. That's fine. But yeah, the British have definitely taken an advantage out of that extra card situation. Now we're going to move into the winter turn, and I'm just going to continue doing this on this video, even though it's already a very long video, because the winter doesn't take much time. We flip through the rules. We end up where we get to play our cards. Then we take the attrition, naval repair in case anything was damaged, and then the supply depots disappear. And right now we've got a little bit of attrition, but not much going on. I know Dearborn's going to get hit, for example. But before the attrition happens, there is a free naval move which must be taken to sail back, and I want to get my ships all together, I think. That tends to be a good move. It's going to restrict my ability to launch a naval attack, but I don't know. What am I getting here? Oh, I should be looking at the British side here. So for Lake Erie, Fort Maiden, that's not where I am. I don't know where it is. Oh, it's down here. Yeah, I'll go down to Port Malton anyway. I'm allowed to put all my ships out at the beginning of next turn. So that's kind of one of the things is I probably want to get my ships together just temporarily. But anyway, you can patrol everything back out into the lake. The Americans are going to have to actually build their ships, but they do have a presence on every lake right now, I think. Enough of one that I don't really feel like I have a freedom of the lakes the way I would like to. I want to end up in control of the lakes at every time. Alright. Okay, so the U.S. plays its winter card, and we're moving into the spring-summer turn. I'm going to load this up. Current victory point total is at 8 for the Brits. Did I recount it? No. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 15 in their favor. They should be at 11. I get 9. Is there another space that the Americans have taken? I don't know. I'm at 9 right now, so I may have miscounted. All right, I'll load this up, but I'll try to fix that before I start playing.